This is Risk of Rain 2. If you've heard of it, one of two things probably just came to mind. Lore. Gaming.
Is your Prion recharge? I can't tell. Your abilities. Oh, yep, there it is. Oh! That was easy. Shabingled.
It kind of came to nobody's surprise that this game was a smash hit. I picked it up back when it first came out in the beta, back when burning damage was the bane of everyone's existence, when Hapu wasn't owned by Gearbox. Risk of Rain 2 has a lot of amazing content for very little money. There's no battle pass, no store, no stupid microtransactions, no limitations to what sorts of fun you can have in the game. Plus, with its simplistic graphics, it runs great on most systems, but above all, I love this game because of its frankly addictingly fun gameplay. So what makes this game so good? Let's take a closer look at the gameplay. Side note, throughout the video you'll hear me use words like proc, which means programmed random occurrence. It basically means how often something is going to occur. It's like a 20% chance, it'll have 1 out of 5, etc, etc. CC, which means crowd control, and AoE, which means area of effect. Don't worry, they're very commonly used terms that make more sense in context. But first, my entire understanding of the story of Risk of Rain 2. There are a total of 14 survivors in Risk of Rain 2, but a new player starting the game only has access to 2. Starting with Commando, he's your boots-on-the-ground shooterman. No superpowers, no special weaponry, he's just an angry little man with a pair of guns. For one of the starting survivors, he's actually one of the more challenging ones to play on harder difficulties given his lack of any real AoE or crowd control, but with the right item combinations he does get incredibly powerful. Commando has a high rate of fire and a great range, but pretty mediocre health and movement, which means that to get the most out of him, it's best to get a hold of items that proc on hit, like tri-tip daggers, stun grenades, and ATG missiles. Next on the list is everyone's favorite controller-friendly waifu Huntress. Huntress has a unique trait where she can attack while sprinting, which complements her hit-and-run playstyle very well. Having the lowest health out of any character in the game, she's super squishy but makes up for it in high range damage and pretty decent movement. Unlike Commando, Huntress has pretty decent AoE but still suffers when it comes to crowd control. Huntress's alternate attack ability, Flurry, basically demands for a crit build, which means builds tend to lean towards glass cannons more often than not. Bandit is a relatively recent survivor, and marks the first survivor without an infinite primary attack in that his weapon requires reloading every 4 shots. However, there is no attack speed cap for his primary weapon, which makes for some fun moments. Bandit also has a trait that lets him crit automatically when attacking from behind, which makes his damage output incredibly high when starting out, and his stealth ability makes it very convenient to escape from unsavory scenarios. Similar to Commando, Bandit isn't great at AoE, but he makes up for it with what I like to call Wisp Be Gone. Upon killing an enemy with Desperado, all of Bandit's abilities are recharged, which means you can do this. For items, focus on crowbars and try to get Shatter Spleen and you'll be sitting pretty. Y'all remember WALL-E? If you grew up as a Pixar or a Disney kid, you probably love WALL-E almost as much as I do. Well, he made it into Risk of Rain 2, except instead of a trash compactor, he's a construction robot that decided working at a construction site was too boring, and so he turned his nail guns and rebar launcher to a different purpose. Multi has the highest health pool out of any survivor and deals a large amount of damage to complement it, along with pretty decent movement and great CC. Multi is also unique in how he can carry 2 equipment items that you can freely swap between, or, alternatively, 2 primary weapons that you can use at once. It's no surprise then that Multi is one of the easiest survivors to play. Multi is also one of the most versatile survivors you can play in terms of builds due to his various primary weapons. Play like Commando, you can play like Huntress, or you can play like Mercenary, or you can play like Artificer. On the topic of easiest characters to play, here's by far the most broken character in the game, Engineer.
You There's more gun.
Engineer has at his disposal 2 turrets that inherit every item that you get. Got a gasoline canister? Now your turrets have AoE. Got a Dio's best friend? Now your turrets die and come back. And best of all, Bungus. Possibly the most useless item in the game, since holding still generally guarantees a quick death. Well, turrets don't move. Artificer is my personal favorite Risk of Rain 2 survivor. She's similar to Huntress in that she is somewhat of a glass cannon, but she does hit a little harder, has amazing AoE, amazing mobility, and even if her flamethrower is usually replaced by anyone with any sense in playing the game, I still love to throw it on to mess around with. Your best bet with Artie is to maximize her damage potential by stacking up damage in the form of Kyaros, crowbars, and delicate watches. Mercenary marks the first fully focused melee survivor. He's fast, he's agile, and he has invulnerability frames, which means you can tank most big hits just by hitting Eviscerate. He doesn't have the best health, but makes up for it with incredible mobility. As a melee character, try getting as many focus crystals as possible to maximize damage, and Bandolier in order to keep your mobility top notch. He's a little hard to play, so good luck. Rex is a unique character in that he has really good health regeneration, but also has attacks that are self-damaging. As such, he synergizes incredibly with items like Razor Wire. With decent health and damage, Rex also sports great CC and AoE. Definitely a difficult character to get used to, but super fun to play. Along with stacking Razor Wire, Chronobob will find some use in most Rex builds along with the trifecta of speed. Loader is the best survivor in terms of sheer mobility and damage, and comes at the cost of being one of the more challenging survivors to master the movement of. Her primary attack gives her a temporary barrier, similar to the effects of Topaz Brooch and Aegis, but where she really shines is in her Thunder Gauntlet, where the more speed you have, the harder you hit. Pair that with a grappling hook and you've got the ingredients for a dangerously fun and robust one-punch lady. Stack bands and focus crystals and you'll not go wrong.
Acrid is a good boy. Acrid spit. Acrid poison. Go bonk. Go bite. Get frisbee. Good frisbee. Focus crystal good. Crowbar good. Good boy, Acrid. Go get him.
A commando is an angry man with 2 pistols. Captain is an even angrier man with a shotgun. With great AoE and decent CC, Captain also has interchangeable beacons that go from completely stun-locking enemies to providing health to everyone to literally giving free loot. Captain's lack of movement ability is replaced with a wide array of options. In addition, Captain is the only survivor that spawns with an item, that being a unique legendary item that has a chance to delete enemy projectiles. Being that this item transfers to all drones and activated doodads Captain can pick up, prioritize getting them throughout your run and you're sure to be golden. Otherwise, just watch out for Captain's below average movement. There is one other survivor, that being the Heretic. Heretic is an odd one, and I haven't had the most amount of luck with him, but he's very interesting in that you need to play the game until you reach the Lunar Bazaar as any survivor, which is a hidden item shop selling all sorts of fun goodies I'll get to later, and buy every single one of the items he has for sale. Upon doing this, you'll get the Lunar Heretic, a survivor whose health drains passively as he runs along. Otherwise, his abilities are great if not esoteric, so if you're really into that, go ahead. Word of warning, the next 2 survivors require the purchase of Risk of Rain's first DLC, Survivors of the Void. Railgunner, as the name suggests, has a railgun. Her damage, as such, is really good. Alternatively, she's also given the Smart Pistol from Titanfall 2 to deal with anyone annoying you within range. Railgunner's insane single target damage makes her somewhat susceptible to being overwhelmed due to her lack of any real CC or AoE, so look for Gasoline or Will-o'-the-Wisps to complement a healthy dosage of bands and crowbars. Void Fiend is an interesting one. With really high base damage already making it a strong survivor, it gets better by having a unique system of corruption. While not healing, Void Fiend will slowly get corrupted, after which you become Macro Wave for a short while and get bonus damage resistance, after which you go back to normal. Healing of any sort brings this corruption meter down, including Fiend's own healing ability, which means that with enough passive healing it's possible to entirely suppress this corruption meter. Builds can vary depend on your own playstyle, as his general design makes for natural healing and great damage as is. On their own, survivors make the game enjoyable by providing an array of various different abilities to mix and match in different ways to fit playstyles and personal taste. And that's not even to mention the plethora of mods for the game, that often add entire survivors to mess with. But to really take it to the next level, it's time to talk about items. But before I do, I'd like to quickly ask for you to subscribe. At the time of this video I'm almost at 500 subs, which is simply incredible, and I'd like to thank everyone for following along, and it means I'll soon be able to monetize my content. I don't post often, but when I do I make sure that it's of the highest quality that I can make, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. I won't go into every single item here. For a comprehensive list, check out Disputed Origin to see a detailed explanation of every item in the game. He really puts a lot of effort into these, so I highly recommend it. For those of you too lazy to go there for now, here's a broad overview. There are 7 total different types of item in the game. Common or white items. Being the easiest to find, they're also the easiest to stack large quantities of. Each one has its own place in each build, helping you along tremendously. Most of these items don't contain any major gameplay changes except maybe Power Elixir, which can help out in a clutch situation. Uncommon or green items are the next tier up in both effectiveness and rarity. Green items tend to have a greater effect and broader application, and all in all are a fantastic supplement to your white items while still not replacing any of them, except Hunter's Harpoon. Nobody cares about Hunter's Harpoon. Legendary items are the rarest to find, but also the most powerful. In fact, red items are so good that they can be applied to most builds with no downsides. There are a few stages that have guaranteed legendary item spawns, and it's worth going after them every time. Boss items, better known as yellow items, are sometimes dropped by the teleporter boss, as the name would suggest, and can range from incredibly broken to horrifically underpowered. They're somewhat niche, but some are indispensable. Lunar items are items with strong buffs at the cost of hefty downsides. Despite this, they are still very fun to muck around with and make synergies with. Orange items, better known as equipment items or lesser known as active items, are basically an additional ability that can be tacked onto your survivor's other abilities. Some are useful, others less so, but for the most case, they tend to be more survivor and build dependent and as such vary in their use cases. Finally, there's void items. Void items corrupt regular items and change them into a, well, corrupted variant. Some are incredibly good, such as Wungus or Lysate Cell, while others are less ideal. These items in particular stem from the Risk of Rain 2 DLC, Survivors of the Void. Speaking of bonus content, Risk of Rain 2 has 3 alternate game modes, one of which is DLC exclusive. Prismatic Trials, also known as Speedrun Simulator, Eclipse, a series of 8 harder and harder game modes that simply are just painful to play, and Simulacrum, the DLC exclusive Dome Defense Simulator. Speaking of DLC, Risk of Rain 2's DLC was certainly a lot to get used to at first, but now can hardly play without it. It adds a ton of different things, and just to let you know, I am not sponsored, but it adds new items, the aforementioned new characters, 5 new maps, 11 new monsters, 3 new bosses, it's just a ton of new stuff. It's a little pricey at $15, but for the amount of content, I can definitely say that it's worthwhile, especially when taking into account that Modern Warfare 3 is an extra 2 hours tops of gameplay with a $70 price tag. It's genuinely some of the best content I've seen brought to a game in the form of a DLC, and this is coming from someone who plays New Vegas a lot. Of course, I can't talk about additional content without mentioning mods. Assuming you bypass the more questionable mods, modding Risk of Rain 2 with friends is a guaranteed way to extend the entertainment value to be found in an already content-rich game. Custom characters I mentioned earlier, but how about more items? Quality of life changes, entire graphics overhaul that makes stages look incredible. All this for free, playable with friends. The possibilities are truly endless here. There's still more content I haven't talked about in this video. Things like the Void Fields, Aurelionite, all these cool and neat and nifty little additions that truly just make this game so much fun and how much detail is packed into every single little corner. If you have a few bucks, get some friends together, get this game, play it. Then, once you've played it, come back to this video and tell me what you think. It's got style, it's got pizzazz, and it's got the content to entertain for hours. And best of all, being that the nature of the game is a co-op action roguelike, playing with friends makes it really fun, and I would not have it any other way. You can definitely tell the amount of effort the devs put into this game. It really shows in the quality. That's all for now though. Thanks for watching.